everyone, welcome back to my channel. Let us discuss ISO 27001 Clause 9 today. Clause 9 is divided into three subclauses: 9.1, 9.2 and 9.3. The study that we have done so far, we have known how to select the controls, how to implement it, and then what are the process and procedure that you need to follow. But now, Clause 9 focuses on performance evaluation. What does it mean by performance evaluation? Let us understand with an example. In the next 6 months, you want to lose 5 kgs of weight. In that case, what would you do? You would have a diet plan and then you will start strictly following the diet plan. And every month you will check how much weight have you reduced, right? So that is nothing but you're evaluating the performance of your weight loss journey. That is what is Clause 9 all about. It wants to do the evaluation of the ISMS that you have so far. Agreed that you have a good process, you have a policy in place, you have all the controls that you have implemented, but without evaluating, how do you know that the ISMS that you have implemented is doing good? It is actually helping your organization grow and securing your organization. Hence, Clause 9 focuses on performance evaluation of your ISMS system. Clause 9 is again subdivided into 9.1, 9.2 and 9.3. Clause 9.1 talks about monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation, whereas Clause 9.2 focuses on internal audit. Internal audit is really helpful because it gives you the results of where exactly your ISMS is standing and what are the shortcomings or what is the best thing that you're doing and what needs improvement. The last is the management review, where it emphasizes on involvement of management to review the performance of your ISMS. ISO 27001 is more about documentation. Let's deep dive into Clause 9.1, monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation. One of the controls says that you need to have a proper management of vulnerabilities. Let's take this as an example for understanding Clause 9.1. What needs to be monitored? So now you understand that all the vulnerabilities in your organization has to be monitored because you keep having new updates for your application every now and then. What needs to be monitored? So you're going to monitor the vulnerabilities, measured. And how are you going to measure your system is not vulnerable to any new vulnerabilities? Including what needs to be monitored and measured. So how are you measuring that you have a system which is not vulnerable to vulnerabilities? Okay, how are you going to measure that? Including information security processes and controls. So including the process, it's not only the vulnerabilities but even the security processes and controls. If you have any controls, are these control effective? How are you going to monitor and measure the progress or the effectiveness of this control in your organization? That is something that you have to ensure that will be monitored and measured. In my case, I'll ensure that there are no vulnerabilities. So vulnerability management is something that I'm discussing. Okay, I know I have to monitor the vulnerabilities and measure. How will I measure it? Okay, let me identify how many vulnerabilities are getting notified in my vulnerability management tool. It should not be more than, say, 5 vulnerabilities in a month. This is just a hypothetical situation, right? So this becomes my measure of saying, okay, if there are less than 5, less or equal to 5, then I will say, okay, I'm doing better in handling my vulnerabilities, because nothing can be 100% sure, right? The methods for monitoring. So how are you going to monitor? Maybe you will have or purchase a vulnerability management tool, the vulnerability management team, to report you all the latest vulnerabilities. Okay, methods of monitoring, measurement, analysis. How are you going to do the analysis, saying that, okay, this vulnerability needs attention because this is high priority vulnerability. This, say, vulnerability, you have one vulnerability which is critical, and then there is one more vulnerability which is not very critical. Then you have to do the analysis and say, okay, this seems to be more applicable to my system, so I will go and implement this first. So that is how you need to do the analysis and evaluation. Then after implementing it, you have to check, okay, has it been successfully implemented? Evaluate, like, is it performing well, and is it having any how is my organization getting benefited out of it, right? As applicable, to ensure valid results. The results also should be valid. Okay, the method selected should produce comparable and reproducible results. So whatever method you are selecting, right, if you are planning of having a vulnerability management tool and defining a process related to that, then that whatever results that this tool is giving you should be comparable, reproducible, to be considered valid. And it should be valid. It is not like it's giving you any information and you just say, okay, this is fine, right? It should be valid. When the monitoring and measuring shall be performed. So when it should be valid? Whenever you're performing the monitoring or measuring, the data should be valid. It should not give you any error in the data. Who shall monitor and measure? Then what you do, you will have a vulnerability management tool, and you'll have a information security manager. You'll say under him all these vulnerability management team is there, and they're going to report to this information security manager, right? So you should also ensure that who shall monitor and who shall measure. When the results from monitoring and measurement shall be analyzed and evaluated. When you're going to evaluate, are you doing a vulnerability and patch management every quarterly or every once in 6 months, right? So you have to, based on your organization, you have to decide who and when the results will be monitored, who shall monitor and measure, who shall analyze and evaluate. Say the information security manager will say, okay, fine, I think this report is fine, or he's going to evaluate the results and give you the go ahead on this. The team is someone who will be monitoring it, maybe a subject matter expert who can analyze and evaluate these results. Like this, you have to define your KPIs, the key performance indicators. You have to define a KPI for every control that you are implementing. If you do not measure, if you do not do the evaluation of your control, how do you know that the controls that you have implemented in your organization are effective? Documented information shall be available as evidence of the results. So whenever you do the vulnerability management, the report should come to you and that should be used as an evidence. The date should be there, the time should be there, the system on which the scan was performed, that should be mentioned. So that will act as an evidence for 9.1 monitoring, measurement and analysis, saying, okay, this is the control we have, this is what we have implemented, and this is our performance report. The organization shall evaluate the information security performance and the effectiveness of the information security management system. So this is one example I've given vulnerability management. Like this, you might, in your organization, you might have something for incident management. Then in that case, you'll say, okay, how many incidents have come? Have the incidents reduced after implementing the ISMS, right? How are you going to evaluate it? So that kind of it. Maybe you'll do something if you're getting too much of phishing alerts. Then okay, are we doing the security and awareness program? Right? How many people have, then what? How do you measure it? How many people have attended it, and how many are not actually responding to the phishing emails that you send? Right? They have to say, okay, they have to notify that this is a phishing email. They should be able to identify it. So that is the report you get. How many have clicked on it? So that is how you will measure the effectiveness of your security awareness program. And change management, any control that you're going to implement, ensure that you have a proper monitoring in place. Then you measure it, you analyze it, and then you evaluate it. That is what 9.1 talks about. Coming to 9.2, internal audit. Internal audit, whenever you perform an audit, that also is a performance evaluation. The documented information shall be available as evidence of the results. The organization shall evaluate the information security performance and the effectiveness of the information security management. It is for the organization to ensure that they do the evaluation of the information security performance. See, okay, what is the result? Are we doing any better from our previous when before implementing this control, and after implementing this control, what is the progress that we have made? For an ISO 27000, right? When you go for the certification, there are two audits that will happen. One is the internal audit, and next is the external audit or the certification body audit. I'll tell you what it is, how it goes. This internal audit is done within your organization. If someone is certified, like he's a lead implementer and he's independent of the scope of the ISMS, okay, then he is eligible to perform the internal audit. Next is the external audit. External audit is done by the certification body. Whenever your organization goes for a certification, the external auditors will first check your internal audit. So this is also one of the mandatory control. They will check your internal audit report. Okay, it is mandatory control. He'll have so this internal audit becomes one of the mandatory control, and also it will also give you the performance evaluation. It will give you an understanding of where exactly you are standing and are you prepared for your external audit or not. There's no point of going half prepared and then losing the certification. So this control helps you in evaluating where exactly your ISMS is standing and what improvements you need. The organization shall conduct internal audit at planned intervals. So it says at planned interval, you just conduct an internal audit to provide information on whether the information security system management system conforms to organization's own requirements for its information security management system. The requirements of this document is effectively implemented and maintained. The organization shall conduct internal audit at planned intervals. So every 6 months or every 1 year, you conduct your internal audit, depends on your organization, to provide an information on whether the information security management system conforms to the organization's own requirements. Whether this information security management system, the ISMS that you have implemented, is it meeting your organization's own requirements and the requirements of this document, and it is meeting all the requirements which are mentioned in this ISO 27001 document. So this is what it talks about, and it is effectively implemented and maintained. Is it implemented properly and maintained? Does it have all the requirement document, and does it cover what all requirements is there in the information security management system? Does it have all these? That is what general talks about. 9.2. Let's now move to 9.2.2. You'll get clear understanding of it. Internal audit program. So what it says is that the internal audit program. See, audit should have a good plan. Okay, when you have a good plan, then things will fall in place. Then your chances of success is high, right? That's how even audit programs should be conducted. The organization should plan, establish, implement, and maintain an audit program. You should not just say, okay, we're doing an audit. No, you should have a date to it. You should have a complete structure when you're going to perform the internal audit, when you're going to implement it, and then after you implement it, all the reports, the findings, everything should be documented. You should execute it like a good program, including the frequency. Okay, what all should be included in the plan? The frequency, how frequently you're going to implement this internal audit, the methods, what method you're using, Are you using a risk-based method? See, for example, mostly auditors will use, whenever they come to the organization, they'll say, okay, what do you think are the high risk in your organization? And then they start it from there, right? The methods, the responsibilities, who's doing what. Okay, planning requirements are and reporting. How exactly you're going to plan your ISMS and how, and the report. All those things should be included in the internal audit program. I'll show you one example here. See, what is the audit? What's the organization name, the period, who prepared it, who approved it, what is the objective? Okay, audit scope, what all are the audit scope, the criteria, what you're using, when are the dates when you're performing this audit, who's the team, what are the methods. Okay, you'll do some staff interview, you'll do the document review, you'll do the sampling, the artifacts you will check, okay, during the audit, and report, draft report, and by when the final report will be done, and then by when will you do check the non-conformities, like in the findings, if you come to know, okay, these are the non-conformitives, and you will give them the corrective action plan, then by when are you going to follow up and check, okay, have they done it or not? So this is the complete audit plan that you have to have. Yeah, so it says, when establishing the internal audit program, the organization shall consider the importance of processes concerned and the results of previous audit. So whenever you're doing an audit, you should also check what were the findings of their previous audit, okay, and whatever non-conformitives that have come in the previous audit, have they worked on it and have they closed those findings? That is very important. You have to start your audit from there. Okay, the results of the previous audit. The organization shall define the audit criteria and the scope for each audit. I showed you the example there. Select auditors, conduct audits that ensure objective and the impartiality of the audit process. So it should be, you should ensure, select the auditors and conduct audits. See, you can have, it says that select auditors. You can have people who are in your organization who has done ISO 27000 lead implementer. Okay, but make sure that they are independent of the scope of the ISMS. They should not be involved in the ISMS. Okay, or you hire an internal auditor from outside. Conduct audit that ends, because why do we want that person, the auditor should be from an external organization, or even if he's from internal organization, he should be certified and he should not be partial, right? He should be independent of the scope of the ISMS, because to ensure the objectivity and the impartiality of the audit process, so that he can give a biased free, he can be unbiased, right? Ensure that the results of the audits are reported to relevant management. Say in production team, you have found some findings. In marketing team, you have found some findings. So these should be reported to the relevant management. Documented information shall be available as evidence of the implementation of the audit program and the audit results, which means when you're performing the audit, make sure you have a proper document, like here what I showed you. Okay, have a proper document. What are the non-conformatives? What are the artifacts that were submitted? Okay, all the evidences that you got, everything should be in a document. You know that ISO 27000 is document heavy control. ISO 27000 is very heavy on documentation. It just speaks, you just can't say, okay, I've done it. It'll ask you, show me the evidence. That's how it is, ISO 27000. Next, 9.3 management review. Clause 9.3 management review. This clause emphasizes on the top management, how the management can help in building ISMS. Okay, it says that the management should regularly review the ISMS program, see where we are standing, what is the help required. Okay, how can it do that? Conduct a regular meeting. That's what it says. Top management shall review the organization information security management at planned intervals, maybe every quarter or maybe monthly. Okay, and or every monthly. Just try to have a meeting with the stakeholders, with each and every leads of every business unit. Have a meeting with them and see where we are standing, how our ISMS is progressing. Review the results of the risk assessment, review the results of the internal audit, check if there are any challenges. Are we meeting our objectives of the ISMS? All these things, the management has to have a quarterly meeting and then document this. The top management shall review the organization information security management system at planned intervals. What I do is every quarterly, I send this meeting invite maybe before a month ahead, so that all people can make their calendar free and join this meeting, because this is going to be an important meeting and this minutes of meeting will be reviewed by the auditor. So you have to make sure that every team member is joining this meeting, whoever is involved in this ISMS implementation. At planned intervals to ensure its continuing suitability. So it is suitable, the ISMS is still relevant to our environment, adequacy and effectiveness. It is adequate and it is effective. This is about 9.3.1 general. Now let's move to 9.3.2 management review inputs. What ISO 27000 says is management review of the ISMS must be done regularly to check where exactly we are standing, what help is required, and are we continuously improving our information security management system. We need to follow that. The management review so how you do this management review is you can have a monthly meeting or a quarterly meeting with all the stakeholders, and this meeting should be documented. You should have proper MOM, and all the stakeholders, all the heads of every department, which is all the departments which are there in the scope of ISMS, their heads should also be part of this meeting. Okay, the minutes of meeting will be used as an artifact for satisfying this control. So it's very important that you document the meeting. So if there are any issues that you need to discuss, for example, in my online delivery app, say let's take an example of my online delivery app. Say my online delivery app is dependent on a payment gateway for doing the transaction. So if we, after doing the audit, if we find any issues with this payment gateway, then those internal issues, that will be an external issue. So that has to be discussed. Like that only if there are any internal issues in the organization, if we are introducing any new applications or any new services related to that, if there are any risk, then, or if there are any issues that you want to discuss, all these things should be discussed in this meeting. But make sure that those are within the scope of the ISMS. Okay, changes in need and expectations of interested parties. Say your interested parties come up with any new features or any new updates, then all those changes also should be discussed. Or if there are anything that any changes, or they want to decommission anything, or they have any other challenges, everything should be discussed. Okay, of interested parties that are relevant to the ISMS. Feedback on information security performance. Also, how your information security management system, is it too strict? See, it's very important to balance security with your business. The security team just can't say, okay, security is important, and they cannot, put so much of security that the operations team cannot work at all. So you should always strike a balance between both. Okay, so that's what it says. Feedback on the information security performance. Remember, we talked about the evaluation performance. So that feedback also should be discussed here, including trends in non-conformative and corrective actions. So from our internal audit, did we get any non-conformative? How are we progressing on the corrective actions? That also should be discussed. Okay, monitoring and so what are corrective actions and non-conformative? Let me give a little explanation of this. When an internal audit is conducted, okay, if there are certain controls that you do not meet, then the auditors will not fail you. What they will do is they will give you non-conformative, which means you have not met those controls and you need to start working on it. So to work on it, they will give you the corrective actions. How can you work and correct this non-conformative? So when an audit is complete, they will give you a report which will have non-conformative and the corrective actions and the due date by when you should complete these. So all these things also should be discussed in the management review meeting, saying, okay, where are we standing on the non-conformative? What is the progress that we have made on the corrective actions? All these things. Monitoring and measurement results. Even how good are we doing in the monitoring and measurement results? Do we need any tweak in the KPIs, in the measurement? Do we need any tweak on it? Say the incident management team is saying, you know what, we have a measurement saying any incident less than or equal to 5 means we are doing good in our incident management. But over the past 6 months, we have noticed that we are getting always above 5. So I think that is not possible to achieve 5 because of these reasons. He must have a valid reason. Then he'll say, okay, can we increase it to 6 or something like that? Any KPIs that needs to be discussed should be discussed here. And then the audit results. How did the audit go? What do you think? And then the audit results. Okay, how much non-conformities we got, how we are progressing on the audit, all those things. Fulfillment of information security objectives. Remember in my previous video in clause 4, we had discussed about the interested parties, internal, external parties, and also the objectives of the organization. So are we meeting the objectives? What, for example, one of the objective is to have secure transactions of payments. Are we meeting that? So those kind of objectives also should be discussed. Feedback from interested parties, all third parties or our business stakeholders. Just take back, when you take a feedback from them, do they have any input? Do you think those inputs can be inculcated in our infrastructure? Okay, are they giving any constructive feedback? Do you think that can be included? So discuss that as well, because feedback sometimes really helps in improvement. Results of risk assessment. So whenever you perform a risk assessment, are there any things that you want to discuss? Because all risks cannot be mitigated. Remember, I told you about that. So do you want to really mitigate it, or do you want to accept it, or do you want to transfer it? Whatever the risk, after doing the risk assessment, what results you have got, just discuss here. Then the status of risk treatment plan. How are we doing in the risk treatment plan? What is the progress that we are making? All these things should be discussed. Opportunities for continual improvement. How are we having a plan to continuously improve our ISMS? What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? All these things should be discussed. So after you have this meeting, make sure you have a proper minutes of meeting for this meeting, ensuring that everyone joins this meeting. So you plan this meeting well in advance, send the meeting invite to all the stakeholders and inform them the importance of this meeting. Everyone should join this meeting to know where we are standing on information security. Um, Clause 9.3.3 management review results. So after the meeting is done, okay, you have the MOM, you have the results of what was discussed in the meeting. So the results of the management review shall include what should be there in the result of the management review. A report should come out from the report, from this review. What should be included in that? Decisions related to continual improvement opportunities. Did we make any decision related to how we can improve our ISMS? Do we have any steps related to that, and what are the decisions that we are taking related to that? Okay, like the management will say, okay, every quarterly we are going to do a review of all the documents and see how we are progressing on it, and we have proper monitoring in place or not. So how you are continuously improving your ISMS, and any needs for changes to the information security system. So if there are any needs in the changes of ISMS, so if you feel that there is one new business unit that has come up and you want to include that, or if there is any team which is not very critical, say HR, you don't think that is very critical for your organization, then if you want to remove them out of the scope, if there are any such changes, minor or major, any changes that you think must be part of the information security management system, that should also be there in the results. I hope this was informative. In my next video, we will be discussing about clause 10. If you have any questions related to clause 9, do drop me a message and I'll try to respond. I'll try to reply to your questions. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.